After roosting for years at the University of Washington Bothell campus, thousands of crows recently moved to Redmond. Doug Wacker studied the birds for years at UW Bothell, and he's since tracked down their new roost. We'll have more on the crows' new home in a minute, but first, let's get you caught up. The Woodinville City Council is moving forward with plans to redevelop the area that once housed Molbach's Garden and Home Center. The Seattle Times reports the plan includes 1,300 housing units, a 200-room hotel, plus retail, restaurant, and office space. One thing the project will not include, a revamped Molbach's, which closed in 2024. A new garden center got scrapped due to rising costs. Governor Bob Ferguson is meeting for a second time with NBA Commissioner Adam Silver today, and there is no doubt about what they're talking about. The NBA Board of Governors is meeting on Tuesday and Wednesday and will vote on whether to open up expansion bids for Seattle and Las Vegas. If the yes vote goes through, the new plan is to have a team in Seattle back for the 2028 NBA season, according to ESPN. And hey, real talk now. Every day, twice a day, you listen to Seattle Now and learn something about this place. This show is powered by an entire newsroom following local stories across the city. KUOW relies on community support for this podcast and everything you read or hear. It's all supported in part by you. This week is KUOW's spring fundraising drive. Please consider supporting KUOW and this podcast by making a financial gift. All you have to do is tap the link in our show notes. And thanks for supporting Seattle Now. We're back with more headlines on tonight's episode. The word in Bothell is the massive crow roost on the University of Washington campus began around 2009. Some nights, as many as 20,000 would settle there for the night. I can remember watching hundreds of them fly over my house in North Seattle on their way over. But in recent years, things have changed. The crows have slowly moved their roost a few miles south near a golf course in Redmond, and no one knows for sure why. Keir Slinsky is a photographer who moved to Bothell last year.
It took me a few trips of hunting around to figure out exactly where the roost was.
He's since seen thousands upon thousands of raucous crows gather near 60 Acres Park in Redmond.
I like to imagine that, they're trading news and gossip of the day.
Doug Wacker has studied crows for more than a decade. He's an associate professor of animal behavior at UW Bothell. He spent years observing their roost, and he's here now to help us understand their move. Doug, thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Doug, your search for the new roost actually started with a tip. So tell me that story.
So we had some information or idea that the crow numbers were changing at the roost on the Bothell campus. And then I got a text one day from my wife who works over in Kirkland, Kim, and she said she saw a large number of crows moving east. And that is not towards Bothell there, in the wrong direction. So I was like, are you sure it's east? And she was very certain that it was east. So I went out the next day and followed those crows, sticking my head out the window of my truck, and followed them to the site in Redmond. And that's when we located it. So I have to thank my wife for kind of tipping me off on that.
And just to clarify, your wife is not an animal behaviorist, correct?
No, but my whole family is kind of gained an interest about crows because, it's hard not to. It's contagious.
Well, let's clue listeners into what we know. Why do crows roost in the first place?
Yeah, so there's a lot of hypotheses. I think the ones that are my favorites for the crows around here are protection from predators. So there's just a huge number of crows, and as long as you're not the slowest crow, then you're probably not going to get picked off by the owl because there's thousands of others around you. And they also make vocalizations that can alert other crows if there's a predator like an owl in the area. So it's kind of an early warning system. So protection from predators. And then also a hypothesis that we've been investigating in my lab is do crows share information with their calls in these big groups? So when they're actually roosting, they're mostly just sleeping, not making a lot of sound. But right before they roost, they form these pre-roosting aggregations, and they're really noisy, and maybe they're sharing information about, food or mates or something. And that's what we've been looking at.
Yeah, those are definitely noticeable. Those huge, they do actually seem like conversations happening. I mentioned at the top there, I noticed the shift in the flyover my house. Why did the crows move their roost from Bothell to Redmond? Do you know?
So we're not sure, because it's an N of 1 is what we would say in the science community. It's just a sample size of 1. So it's very difficult to know for sure, but we have some hypotheses. So campus has changed quite a bit. So they used to roost on the North Creek Wetlands Restoration next to the UW Bothell campus. And our campus has grown. So we've built a number of new buildings, a new science building, a new parking garage. We've changed some of the student housing on campus. And that may have disrupted some of the areas that they pre-roost on, where they're having those potential conversations. So that might be some of it. Also, we had lots of development in Bothell itself. So the kind of surrounding area, when I first came to Bothell in 2012, was very suburban, and there were, a number of undeveloped areas, and it's really built up. So perhaps those changes have kind of altered the crow's behavior. And there's some other ideas as well. The wetlands themselves were established in the late 90s, and they've grown quite a bit. The trees have changed, they've grown larger, and it may just have led to kind of a situation where it's not optimal for roosting anymore. But it's all speculative, really, and it could be more than one reason, but those are a couple of our hypotheses.
As a researcher, I'm curious how you view this move. Is it alarming to you? How do you see it in the grand scheme?
Yeah, it's not alarming. It's just super interesting. So in the scientific literature, most of the time that we've seen information about crows moving the roost, people have harassed the crows in some way. Perhaps there's a crow roost over kind of a city area or something, and the folks need to get rid of it because they're pooping all over, an area that people use or something. That didn't happen here. This was a spontaneous move. And so it's unusual. These happen, but they just haven't been well documented. So they move for some reason for themselves. Like the crows had a reason to move. And so I just find it very fascinating. But no, it's not alarming. It's just kind of a natural phenomenon.
It's funny because whether or not people interact with crows, they are all around us all the time. Like you said, they pay attention, right?
Certainly.
They chat. You've been working at UW Bothell since 2012. I'm curious if people have paid attention to the big roost at the college, how it showed up through the years there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I've been giving these public talks, which are just wonderful. And there's so many people in the community that are interested in crows, and they always ask great questions. And at the end, we always leave some time, and they always have great crow stories. So I'm always, okay, does anybody know anything about the origin of this roost? Because I wasn't here, right, when it formed. And I've gotten a lot of great information. So people definitely are following this. You can get online and see people's experiences and kind of past information about these crows and where they've been. And it's been super helpful because then I can follow up on those, ask more people, and get a better idea of the history of it all.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the cacophony that used to fly over my house about 6 o'clock every evening in North Seattle was so noticeable. There were thousands of these birds, and I wonder if it's worth watching the display and what you would recommend to listeners who want to go out and see the roost in Redmond.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally worth seeing. It's pretty amazing. It's just thousands upon thousands of birds all congregating in this one area, and it's so loud and amazing. And, you can go online, find out exactly where it is. And then once you're out there, parking's a little limited. But what I would say is arrive sometime before sunset, maybe, 15, 20 minutes before sunset. Find a good vantage to kind of see kind of the whole area if you can. There's a few potential areas that you could park to see this. And then just look for those pre-roosting aggregations. You'll start to see the crows come in. It's funny when I've taken people out to look at this. It's kind of boring at the beginning because just a few crows trickle in and people are like, oh, wow, yeah, sure, Dr. Wacker, this is great. And then eventually they just start coming in and you can just see the awe because, it's thousands of individual animals. How often do you see that happen elsewhere, and it's really special.
Yeah. Before I let you go, why crows? Tell me how you got into this research at UW Bothell.
Yeah, thank you for asking me that, because when I came to Bothell, I had not studied crows. I had studied bird behavior, and we are a primarily undergraduate institution, and we have our undergraduates conduct research and creative projects. I mean, it's a big part of the education there. And I had a lot of students that came up to me and said, oh, wow, look at these crows. I want to learn more about them. And kind of being the bird guy and wanting to give those students an opportunity to practice research, learn how to do research. We kind of jumped, head first into this. And it's been amazing because they're so smart. They're so vocal. And it was such a part of the community at Bothell. It's kind of sad that they're not near campus anymore. But that's really what grabbed me. It was the student interest and student involvement. I mean, the students have done most of the work that we've done. And without them, I wouldn't be anywhere. But it's their interest and then just kind of the spectacle. And the community is so interested in it as well. That just kind of builds excitement. So That's the reason.
Yeah. Well, a really good laboratory. Just have to drive a little bit further now to see the birds. All right. Doug Wacker is an animal behavior professor at UW Bothell. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much for your insight.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you listening to Seattle Now, and thanks to our latest donors, Susie, Francis, and E. Your support means the world to us. Want to crow about the show? Why not rate and review us on your favorite podcast app? Today's episode was produced by Anna Marie Yanni. It was edited by Andy Hurst and Caroline Chamberlain Gomez. Our production team also includes Brooklyn Jamerson Flowers, Vaughn Jones, and Paige Browning. Greg Kramer does our theme music. Seattle Now and KUOW Public Radio are members of the NPR network. I'm Patricia Murphy. See you tonight for Evening Headlines.